What is up, guys? What's going on? So, today we're going to be discussing the attack in New York City as well as the shooting in Texas today. So, there was a shooting in Texas 2 days ago. There was an attack in New York, terrorist attack in New York City last Tuesday. So, we could go from today. We're going to discuss all of that stuff in detail today for you on the True Conservative Podcast. This is the True Conservative Podcast where we take all of today's top stories, big stories, things that are being talked about in the news and in the media, and we're going to talk to you from a conservative perspective. I'm obviously a conservative, so when you hear me discuss things, it's from a conservative perspective. I want to make sure that I put my bias out there so that you understand that it's not, when you see this, you're not, out of your mind like, whoa, what's going on? So, we're going to dive right into this today. My mic is bugging out. I gotta get a new mic stand, man. Jesus. Let's try to fix this real quick while we do this. So, we are live for the first time. We normally don't do a live podcast. Normally the podcast is done recorded, and then we do it all kind of like post-production style. We edit it and stuff like that, and we want to try to be able to incorporate the listener and the viewer in it. So, it's live on YouTube. Can't do it live on SoundCloud, and we don't have a website for it, so unfortunately it has to be live on YouTube for now until we can do a live non-video version somewhere else. I apologize for the squeaking. Like I said, I'm trying to get this microphone set up. We should be good now. Alright, so excuse me. So we're going to talk about the attack in New York first because it happened first, and then we will discuss the attack the shooting in Texas. So, first things first, we want to go over how it happened. We're going to break down both scenarios, how it happened, give you a little insight in as far as the terrorist attack goes on the terrorists that attacked, and then we're going to go into we'll get into the shooting, we'll go over what could have been done to prevent it, and then we'll go over what the left's reaction has been to this. Obviously, the left kind of went a little bonkers on this, but we're going to talk about all of that stuff here in a second. So, first thing is we want to go over how the New York City attack unfolded, where it's how it started, where kind of give you guys an idea as to everything that went down, so that you guys can understand it a little bit better. So, where is it? Oh, I already lost my page. There we go. So, it all started, a brief overview. At least 8 people were killed Tuesday in what New York officials are calling a terror attack. Here's what we know what happened, and this is all per the New York Police Department. All this information came from the NYPD, so it's relatively factual. Now, I'm using CNN. You can see right here I'm using CNN to kind of get all my information. Obviously, not my favorite news source, but that's what we're using to get the information because it's from the NYPD. I've read stuff, so I know for relative fact that my throat's all scratchy today. Jesus. I know for a relative fact that all of the stuff or most of what is here is true. So, starting at 2:06, the suspect rented the truck from Home Depot in Passaic, New Jersey. So he rented this truck that you're looking at on your screen right now, this Home Depot truck that has obviously been smashed. This is the truck that was rented by the suspect. He rented it out of Passaic, New Jersey. At 2:43, the driver exited the George Washington Bridge. This is what they were able to tell this by license plate readers. The suspect exited the bridge into New York City southbound on the West Side Highway. You're gonna have to forgive me. One, my throat's very scratchy, and two, typically when I talk fast, but two, I'm able to edit out a lot of the stuff when I do the podcast, and because it's live, I can't edit any of this stuff out. It's going to go right up on YouTube, and then it's going to go right up on SoundCloud, no editing. That's kind of how I want to keep it from now on. So I got to get into the groove of being live and not being able to just redo things and do different takes and stuff. So it's an adjustment. Bear with me. So at 3:04 p.m., the suspect drove down onto the bike path walkway. The truck entered near Houston Street. Now I'm going to show you this image, again provided by CNN. I'm going to show you this image of basically an overview of what it looked like. So you can see right here, this is where the truck enters the bike path. So here's Houston Street, comes off Houston Street. The bike path is right here, so where the truck enters. He plows through down the bike path. Truck heads southbound, striking pedestrians, where he crashes into a school bus at the end here, which is, you can see One World Trade's right here. So not too far from One World Trade Center. Now, my mic keeps falling. It's time to invest in a new mic. Okay. So this is a little bit better on the image on the right for those of you who are watching. If you're not watching and you're listening, the links for all of this will be in the description on SoundCloud, as well as obviously in the description on YouTube, so you guys can check that stuff out. Now, you can see right here is the Hudson River bike path, which is, he plows through these people here. Truck crashes into the school bus right here. The suspect runs away armed with a pellet gun and paintball gun, and police officers shoot the suspect right here. Now, we have video of all of that for you guys to look at a little bit later. But what we're going to show you, I'm going to show you guys a video. This video is going to be mildly graphic, so if you don't want to watch it, if you're watching this live, I don't know what to tell you. But if you don't want to watch it or listen to it, jump ahead about 40 seconds because this is only a 40-second video clip, and you don't have to be burdened with this. But this is a video of kind of the aftermath after the truck had gone through. Again, this is provided by CNN, so that's why you see this in the beginning.
Oh my God, zoals je eruit voor West Street, corner Houston. Elkaar hebben getreden 4 bicyclists. It sounds like a terrorist attack, I'm not sure what it is. Einer respondt nicht, 3 leben noch. I think this is this phone.
So as you can see, relatively graphic. You can see the bodies on the ground there, which nobody wants to see. Now, farther down that path, the truck collided with a school bus at Chambers Street. The collision, the bus basically hit the bus. The truck, hit the bus, kind of bounced off, went up the street, just a little bit up the street. Now, I have an image of that for you guys to kind of look at so you can see what it looked like. I believe it's this one. Yep, there it is. So this is an image. We do have a video that we're going to show you just a little bit later. That video is graphic as well. So again, if you're watching this live, I don't know what to tell you, but if you're watching this either later on YouTube or listening to it, you can skip ahead so you don't have to hear that. But when we get to that, we'll discuss that. It's not important right now. You can see the damage to the bus. It is a small bus. It's not it's not a large school bus. It's a shorter bus. But you can see the damage. You can see the gaping hole on the side of the bus. And you might think, oh, well, the fire department probably cut into it. If you look at the video, I'm sure they cut in a little bit, but not to any nowhere near the extent that you would think looking at that image. After the collision, the driver exited the truck with a pellet gun and a paintball gun. Witness said the suspect yelled "Allahu Akbar." Law enforcement told that's according to law enforcement. All of that. So the suspect, this guy right here, that is the suspect whose name is almost impossible to say because it's super long. His name is, I'm gonna butcher the fuck out of this name, and I apologize if you don't like that. I'm cursing, but if you don't like that, touch it. So, his name is Saifullo Habibulovek Saipov. That's his name. He's 29 years old. He's from Uzbekistan. Came to the United States back in 2010. So yeah, he jumped out of the truck after he had crashed it with a pellet gun, which I believe is in his right hand, and a paintball gun, which is in his left hand. This is just from looking at it, it's what it looks like. You can see obviously the Home Depot truck that's been wrecked right there. And this is an image from Twitter that shows him getting out. At 3:08, more than a dozen 911 calls came in. Calls reported people down on the bus crash and a man with a gun in the street. Bystanders called called nearby officers to come over. I am now going to play you a video of him actually running through the street. After he wrecks the truck, he runs through the street with these guns, with the paintball gun and the BB gun, and then eventually he ends up actually getting shot. So here you go. So yeah, so you guys get an idea. They shot him at the end. He's running through the street in what appears to be like an attempt of a suicide by cop. He didn't want to kill himself. He was going to have the police shoot him. Police shot him. Unfortunately for him, he didn't die. So, yeah. Obviously, there's that. Trump had a relatively explosive response. It's a long...
Thank you very much.
Today... hold on. Jesus. Easy there, guys. He has it's a 14-minute, 17-minute video. Not going to show you guys the whole thing, but we are going to play the president's response to this so you can hear it. So here you go.
Thank you very much. Today we mourn the horrifying terrorist attack in New York City, just blocks away from the site of the World Trade Center. A man drove a truck into a pedestrian bike path and murdered 8 people and injured very, very seriously at least 11 more. All of America is praying and grieving for the families who lost their precious loved ones. Horrible act. Our hearts break for them, and we pledge to renew our resolve in their memory. My administration is coordinating closely between federal and local officials to investigate the attack and to further investigate this animal who did the attacking. And updates will be provided as available. I am today starting the process of terminating the diversity lottery program. I'm going to ask Congress to immediately initiate work to get rid of this program. Diversity and diversity lottery. Diversity lottery sounds nice. It's not nice. It's not good. It's not.
Okay, so he goes a lot more into it there than just that, but I'm not going to play the entire 17-minute clip because that would be outrageous for me to play that entire 17-minute clip of him saying whatever it is that he's going to say about this. Links, like I said, for that will be in the description of the video as well as the podcast. If you're watching this live, as these things pop up, we do actually paste the links after it's been played. You'll see the links will pop up onto the screen for you to click on or use so that you can actually see this yourself. This whole live stream thing is actually pretty cool, so but that's not important at the moment. So yeah, that's the president's reaction. Of course, he struggled with the word diversity, but that's okay. Listen, nobody said he was a great public speaker. So at 3:08, so yeah, so at 3:08, more than a dozen 911 calls came in, and then there was a police officer assigned to the area fired at him, hitting him in the stomach. Now you saw that image earlier, or the video earlier of the suspect being shot. This is the officer who shot him. His name is Ryan Nash. He was the one that shot and killed. Or not shot and killed. Sorry, he's not dead. He shot the subject. Now, after his arrest, he underwent surgery. Like I said, his name is Saifullo Habibulevek Saipov. He's a 29-year-old Uzbek national who came here to the United States in 2010. Law enforcement found a note near the truck claiming the attack was carried out in the name of ISIS. On Wednesday, he was charged with providing material support to ISIS and violence and destruction of motor vehicles, as well as the death of the 8 people he killed. Now, there's a little bit more to note here. So, you heard in Trump's speech, he talked about the visa lottery program that he was talking about and said that we need to get rid of it. Well, the reason he says that is this is exactly how he got here. So the police, like I said, the police identified him. He's from Uzbekistan, and he came here after winning, in 2010, after winning a residency in an annual visa lottery. So that's that diversity visa lottery program that he was talking about. That this is how he got here. That's why it's an issue that needs to be looked into. And I completely agree that we need to get rid of that. So he's been charged, the U.S. prosecutors charged him with causing the death of at least 8 people and providing material support and resources to the Islamic State. He has not sought bail and will remain in custody. Now, odds are he's probably not going to get out of custody. That'd be stupid on the part of the prosecutor or on the part of the judge if they were to allow him bail, which would be absolutely asinine. Prosecutors say he spoke freely to them, waiving his right to avoid self-incrimination while he's in custody. According to the New York Times, Saipov arrived in the country with a poor command of English and sought work as a truck and Uber taxi driver, living in Tampa, Florida, and then moving to Paterson, New Jersey, which is where he was residing at the time of this the time of this incident. He was a very good person. When I knew him, this is according to an Uzbek national in Florida who he was friends with. His name is Kabijan Matak. These names are almost impossible for me to say. Kabiyajian Matkarov. He said he liked the U.S. He seemed very lucky, he seemed very lucky, and all the time he was happy and talking like everything is okay. I think he meant to say he's like happy-go-lucky. Everything was okay. He married another Uzbek immigrant and has 3 children. He is said to have been unlucky in finding employment. In the last 3 years, he grew a beard, which you can see his beard in this image. Right here, you see his beard. I'm not going to play the video, but you can see his beard in that image right there. He has grown a beard. Where did I leave off? He has grown a beard and developed a violent temper. One of his friends, his name was Imam Abdul, who didn't want his when he talked to New York Times, he didn't want to use his last name. Said he didn't learn the religion properly. He used to tell him, "Hey, you are too much emotional. Read books more. Learn your religion first." Obviously, language barriers is why it sounds like poor English. I'm not going to bash on the English because it's just the language barrier is the reason for that. Governor Cuomo said that Saipov was radicalized while in the United States, and it is now known that he left notes in his vehicle alluding to the Islamic State written in Arabic. Multiple knives were also found inside of his vehicle. He worked for Uber for about 6 months. Uber released a statement saying that they're horrified by the senseless act of violence. Police did confirm that Saipov had not been investigated in the past, but it is believed to have previously come to federal authorities' attention as a result of investigation of others. So he wasn't the one being investigated, but because of people he associated with, they were being investigated, and that's why he was called in. Police records do show that he was arrested. He was arrested last year over a traffic fine in Missouri. So not a serious criminal record to any extent that you can see, obviously. So little interesting, little strange. So now we're going to go into what he said to authorities. So, like I said earlier, he waived his right to he told prosecutors he would speak freely. So he appeared in court on Tuesday in a wheelchair because he was shot. So obviously he's not walking. So according to federal court papers, he planned the attack for a year and carried out a trial run last month in a rental truck. Last month. He intentionally chose Halloween because he believed there would be more people in the streets. Now, I'm not from New York City. I am from New York, but I'm not from New York City. I don't know how accurate his assumption was, but I mean, 8 people to me is a lot of people to just run over like that. So, he originally planned to target the Brooklyn Bridge as well. Now, we don't know, he might have actually been attempting to make it there, but because of the wreck that he had with the school bus, he wasn't able to get that far, thankfully, and cause more harm or damage to people. He wanted to display the Islamic flag on the truck, but decided not to because he didn't want to draw attention to himself, which would have obviously drawn attention to himself, and none of this would have happened. But I mean, he had a shred of logic in his brain, I guess. He was inspired by 90 graphic and violent propaganda videos found on his phone, in particular one in which ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi asks what Muslims are doing to avenge deaths in Iraq. Now, if you remember, back when the Orlando shooting took place and the 911 calls that were released, if you remember, the 911 call that was released said, the guy called and said, referencing the deaths in Iraq. So it's important to link that together because there are people that said that he wasn't really with ISIS, but this sounds identical in that aspect. So it's been said that ISIS gave instructions on how to conduct this type of attack with trucks, and it appears that he's followed almost exactly to a T. So according to the deputy commissioner of the NYPD, John Miller, he followed the instructions almost to a T in how to carry out this attack. So now the FBI says they've located a second Uzbek man, 32-year-old Mukahamadzor Kadra. These names, the link is in the description, guys. I'm not even going to bother with the name. I can't pronounce it. Who was wanted for questioning in connection with the attack. There are reports he is Saipov's cousin. So we're going to dive more into all of this stuff within the coming days about this. We're going to talk about the victims of the attack. Like I said, I got two tragedies we're covering at this point. So we're going to have to split it both ways. I'm going to tackle both of them today, and then tomorrow we'll go back and forth. We're going to discuss the victims and stuff tomorrow, as well as what do we do from now? What do we do from here? Where do we go from here? And how do we try to stop this from happening again? So we're going to dive in now to the Texas church shooting. We're going to do that as soon as we come back from our break. We get a word from our sponsors here in just a second. Alright, so our sponsor today is AmazingVapeShop.com. AmazingVapeShop.com is where you can go to get anything you need for vaping. A lot of people out there in the world smoke cigarettes. Very, very bad thing for you to smoke. Obviously, it causes cancer, heart disease, emphysema, all these different health problems that you do not want to have. So if you switch over to vaping, it's been proven to be 95 to 98% safer than smoking cigarettes. Now, in order to go onto this website, you have to be 21 years or older. The reasoning for that is because this is a company based out of New York, and New York has laws saying that you have to be 21 years old in order to purchase tobacco products, and the FDA classifies this as a tobacco product, even though there's no tobacco in it, but that's another issue for another day. So you can get everything from mods to kits to e-liquid to tanks to batteries, anything that you need. They have over 250 different flavors of e-juice. They have multiple oils and batteries and anything like that you might need. And to top it off, they also have fidget spinners. So if you go to AmazingVapeShop.com and at checkout, enter the promo code TRUE15, you save 15% off your entire store purchase. Your entire purchase within the store, you save 15% off. So their prices are already ridiculously low. A regular 60 ml bottle of e-juice is costing you $23 to $24. Here, if you get a 60 ml bottle of e-juice, it costs you $19.99. So it's great prices plus the 15% off discount. You're saving a lot of money and you're making yourself healthier. So be sure to go to AmazingVapeShop.com, enter the promo code TRUE15 and save yourself 15% off. Help them for helping us out here at True Conservative. Okay, so we are back. We're going to now dive into the shooting of the church in Texas. Sorry. See, it's live. I can't edit that stuff out. So we're going to dive into the church shooting and how it happened. Give you the play-by-play. We got some interviews we're going to play for you. And then we're going to dive into how it could have been prevented. So, at least 26 people are dead after a gunman opened fire during Sunday service at a First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas. It's a small community east of San Antonio. Here's what we know so far about what happened. This is according to state and local officials. So around 11:20 a.m., the suspect was spotted at the Valero gas station across the street from the church. He was dressed in black, tactical-type gear and wearing a ballistic vest. Again, this is the First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs in Texas. The suspect crossed the street in his car, got out, and began firing. The suspect entered the church and continued to shoot. He fired from the front of the church first and moved to the right side of the building and kept shooting. Local residents confronted the gunman as he left the church. A man who lives next door to the church grabbed his own rifle, engaged the suspect. Officials said the gunman dropped his Ruger AR assault-type rifle and fled. The neighbors chased after the gunman. This is according to police. Now, I'm going to show you an image not of this guy. I'm going to show you an image And this image is an overview, Google Maps view of the church. Now, the building with the arrow above it is the church itself. Now, I wish there was an easier way for me to show you, but how all of this kind of works. But you get the idea, you get a better idea by looking at it. So, you have the street that's got the arrow on it, and you have the intersection back here. The building to the left of the church is where the local resident that confronted the gunman with the gun was standing. He fires, so the Valero gas station is, I'm assuming, in the area of the bottom middle of the picture, where you really can't see past that. Is where I'm assuming the Valero is. I don't know for sure if that's where the Valero is, but they said he crossed the street in his vehicle, and obviously that's a house directly across the street from on both streets, directly across the street from the church. So it says he crossed the street. He goes and opens fire at the front of the church, then moves to the right side of the church, enters inside the church, and then as he comes out, he's met by a gunman in the house to the left of the church, in this image, to the left of the church, and they exchange gunfire. The suspect drops his gun, gets in his vehicle, and flees down where the arrow is on the street. He flees down that street. They give chase in their vehicle while one person's on the phone with 911, trying to explain their location to him. As they chase him, he swerves around off the road and crashes, which we're going to get into a little bit more. Actually, I'm going to leave that image up so that anybody that's watching can kind of use that as a reference with anything else that we're discussing here. So, police briefly chased the gunman into a neighboring county. Gunman fled in his vehicle. The chase ended when the shooter crashed his car about 8 miles from the church. The suspect was found dead in his vehicle. Police don't know if the suspect died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound or if he was shot by the resident who confronted him. That's still unknown. Now, Trump obviously did a press conference about this one, too. He was in Japan at the time, and I think Trump nails this on the head. He does a phenomenal job when he discusses this and how he talks about, because one of the things that's important to understand is you're going to see this a little bit later when I discuss the left's reaction to this, but a lot of people want to propose all these different policies and how we should handle it so it doesn't happen again in the future and this and that. But it's really a bad idea to propose policies right after a tragedy happens, because they're adrenaline, they're hyped up and they're pushing all this and they want to do this and they want to do that, and it's not helpful because you're not thinking clearly. You're this fit of rage. You want to do something to stop it, but you're not going to stop anything because it's already happened. So you want to stop it from happening again, but you're not thinking clearly. So it's not a good way to do it. Trump nails this on the head. So this is Trump's press conference about the shooting in Texas.
I think that mental health is your problem here. This was a very, based on preliminary reports, very deranged individual, a lot of problems over a long period of time. We have a lot of mental health problems in our country, as do other countries. But this isn't a guns situation. I mean, we could go into it, but it's a little bit soon to go into it. But fortunately, somebody else had a gun that was shooting in the opposite direction. Otherwise, it would have been as bad as it was. It would have been much worse. But this is a mental health problem at the highest level. It's a very, very sad event. These are great people and a very, very sad event. But that's the way I view it. Thank you.
I mean, he just nailed that on the head with what he said. It was beautifully said. And it's true. It's not a gun issue. We shouldn't make it a gun issue. It's a mental health issue. Listen, nobody that goes into a church and shoots up innocent people is exactly sane. Okay? No sane person goes into a church and does that. Now, there's an interview with the guy who was driving a truck that followed him, that they confronted the shooter. There's another video that I'm not going to be playing for you. Steven Crowder did a video. If you guys haven't heard of Steven Crowder, he does a show called Louder with Crowder. Phenomenal show, does amazing videos. He did the Antifa video that I'm sure a lot of you have seen. Great video. If you haven't checked him out, really go check him out and watch that interview. It's really well done, and he talks with the hero from the Texas church shooting. But I'm going to play you an interview from that ABC News did involving the.
Just moments ago, I spoke.
Really, you guys are really fast with hitting this button. I'm going to play you an interview that ABC News did with one of the heroes from this church shooting, kind of explaining what happened so you guys can better understand it. So there you go.
Just moments ago, I spoke exclusively with Johnny Lingendorf. He is the hero who helped chase down the shooter after that massacre. I asked him to tell us what happened the moment he spotted the gunman.
I had parked at the intersection where I had seen the shooter come out from the church, and a gentleman, the neighbor of the church, had come out yielding a rifle, and the two men started exchanging gunfire. From there, the shooter jumped in his vehicle where he had the door open and the engine running, ready to go, and fled the scene. At that time, the neighbor with the rifle came to my truck, and he opened my door and said he just shot up the church and got in. And he said chase him, and so that's what I did. I just chased him.
And tell us about the high-speed chase. How fast were you going, and was any gunfire exchange during the pursuit?
No, ma'am. Thankfully, there was no gunfire exchange, but I was doing around 90, 95, going down 539 northbound while I was on the phone with dispatch trying to lead them to where he was, or the direction he was going, because it seemed everybody had headed up to the church, and I'm not sure if anybody really realized that he had left and gone that direction. So
you were on the phone and you were telling them where you were, and how were you able to keep so calm, Johnny?
It's just one of those things. It was a act now, ask questions later kind of deal. It wasn't, it wasn't something that I needed to freak out about. The situation was in a sense under control, so, and as long as I'm behind the wheel, I'm perfectly fine. So.
Well, we're glad that you are fine. And tell us what happened at the end of the chase. How did it end?
The gentleman seemed to lose control of his vehicle, and he kind of started veering all over the place until he took out one road sign, and then from there he hit the guardrail and then hit the bar ditch. And at that moment, I stopped probably 25 yards from him, within a safe distance to where the gentleman who was riding with me could get his rifle on him, using my truck for protection, and still have a clear shot, but also be at a safe enough distance to where if he came out with a pistol or something, it wouldn't be as accurate.
Hey, Johnny, did you ever see the shooter? Did you see any signs of life in the truck after it crashed?
No, ma'am, I sure did not. Once we stopped, the gentleman got out, mounted his rifle on my hood, and the shooter did not get out of his vehicle after that.
And Johnny, I have to ask you again, how did you have the presence of mind to be able to do this? This neighbor jumps in with a rifle, you're chasing someone who has just shot up a church. Just try and help us understand where your presence of mind and how you were able to do that.
The gentleman who got in my truck, he had just said all he really got out was he just shot up the church, follow him, and that's enough for me to do anything.
What can you tell people about that small town?
From what I've learned just in the last 24 hours or so is that it's a great little community. There's definitely a lot of love and definitely a lot of care here. So many people are pitching in, especially not just here but from all over the state of Texas, and I'm not sure about other places yet, but I know our bigger cities in Texas and stuff are all stepping up to help everybody and try and make this uneasy situation as easy as possible for the families and everyone involved. And it's great to see everybody coming together and helping everybody out.
Well, I hope that you and everyone in that town, I hope you feel the love and the support and the many prayers, Johnny.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so you heard from the hero himself. He definitely, like I said, we don't know what would have happened had they not been there. And one of the things that you hear conservatives talk about all the time is that when you have somebody with a gun who's got ill intentions, if you have somebody with a gun that has good intentions, it counteracts that, and you can stop it. And this is proof. You don't know. First off, if there was somebody with a gun inside that church, you don't know what could happen. It could have been a lot better. A lot of synagogues and churches are actually starting to have armed security because of this kind of stuff. But you don't know where he was going to go, because he ran out of that church. He could have gone back in and shot more people, because you got to remember, he killed 26. There were still people in there that were alive, so they could have killed more people, or he could have gone somewhere else and started shooting somebody else. So you don't know what they could have stopped. They probably stopped something, that could have been worse. You don't know. But it's that equalizer that people don't want to talk about. Now, we're going to talk about the left's reaction. The left kind of went a little crazy with this, just a little bit crazy. Now, Paul Ryan tweeted out, when this happened, he said, reports out of Texas are devastating. The people of Sutherland Springs need our prayers right now. Well, the left heard the word prayers, and they went off. So first off, Elizabeth Warren tweets out. She tweeted out, how many more people must die at churches or concerts or schools before we stop letting the NRA control this country's gun policy? How many kids must die of gun violence on playgrounds and streets every day with no attention at all before we wake up to what's happening? If thoughts and prayers alone prevented gun violence, we wouldn't be shot in places of worship. God calls on us to act. Now, he put act. I'm going to show you so you can see what I'm talking about. He put act in capital letters because he's talking about gun control, and obviously they use act. What the hell is it called? They had one here in New York, and I can't remember the name of it because it was so stupid. Whatever, it was a gun control act, and they obviously they put act in capital letters, and everybody uses that word. So Seth Moulton says, we are praying, but prayers won't fix this or prevent it from happening again. Let's also pray that you can find the courage to do your job. He's referring to Paul Ryan, saying that Paul Ryan's not doing his job because he said to pray for these people. It's amazing to me. Heartbroken for victims, loved ones, and all affected by the horrific tragedy of Sutherland Springs, Texas. That's from Richard Blumenthal. Now, you might think, oh, that's fine. Until he tweets out again, and he says, horror, heartbreak, shame, prayers are important, but insufficient. After another unspeakable tragedy, Congress must act or be complicit. We must do more than mourn and pray for those murdered in Texas. We must act. That's from John Lewis. And the left just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And the biggest thing, like I said earlier, is that you cannot just make a policy right after we shouldn't be talking policy right after a tragedy, because like I said before, it's way too high. Now, Joy Reid said, enough with the thoughts and prayers already. The Bible teaches us that faith without work is dead. Do something or say nothing. So basically what she's saying is, if you're not actively doing something, then you shouldn't be talking at all, which is stupid. But that's, Bette Midler about the epidemic of mass shootings. Watch politicians tweet condolences, thoughts, and prayers, and then go to cocktails with gun lobbyists. Because, again, they're blaming the gun. They're not blaming the person who did it. They're blaming the gun. So, like I said, the left went absolutely apeshit crazy. They said we need to do something. We need to do something to prevent this because it shouldn't have happened. Well, you're right. And there's something that was done previously would have prevented this had the measures been taken correctly to do this. Had they been followed properly, it would have prevented this. Now, what I'm referring to is the guy who shot up the church. His name was Devin Patrick Kelly. Was a member of the Air Force. He was dishonorably discharged from the United States Air Force for domestic violence. He committed domestic violence against his wife and his child, and because of that, because he was convicted of because he was charged with domestic violence, he was not legally allowed to possess a firearm. He wasn't allowed to buy one or possess one. Well, here's the problem. Because it was an Air Force case and not the regular police didn't respond to that, the Air Force had to inform the U.S., had to put his charge in the U.S. database to prevent him, when he went for a background check, of receiving a firearm, of purchasing a firearm. Well, the Air Force didn't do that. And again, because everybody's so quick to make statements instead of actually looking at the facts and waiting for the facts to come out, they don't know this, so they made these BS comments saying that we need to do something. Well, guess what? There was already a law in place that would have prevented this, but the proper steps weren't followed to prevent this from happening. The Air Force, all the Air Force had to do was enter it in the database, or I don't know what the protocol is, but it had to inform the U.S., the civilian population. They had to put it in the U.S. database saying this guy was convicted, this guy was charged with a domestic violence charge. He is not to have a firearm. Then when he went to go purchase these firearms from a legal firearms dealer, when they ran the background check on him, it would have shown up that he had a domestic violence charge, and they would not have sold him a firearm. But the Air Force didn't do that. It's because the Air Force didn't do that, he was able to purchase a firearm. So when the left sits there and they tell you constantly, we need to have stricter gun laws, we need stricter gun laws. Well, guess what? There was a law already in place here that would have prevented this. I'm curious, and if anybody out there listening or anybody watching later on has an answer to this, I would love to hear what your policy prescription is that would have prevented what happened. Just explain what you thought would have prevented that. I'm curious because I can't come up with one single thing other than the law that was already in place that the Air Force didn't help with. Because if the Air Force done their job, this wouldn't have happened. I can't say it wouldn't because I'm sure if he was that dead set on doing what he did, he probably would have found a way to do it. But what I'm saying is that's why it is important to make sure you have all the facts before you make these crazy, I don't want to call them, before you start saying these things without any real, without knowing anything first. So because you don't know the facts, you can't make you can't do a proper assessment of it, and you can't make proper policy if a policy even needs to be in place. And in this situation, it turns out it really doesn't, because there's already a law in place that would have stopped it, but the Air Force didn't follow the appropriate procedures to do this. So, that's where we're at with that. So, that's going to do it, I think, for us today. Tomorrow, like I said, we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into the victims of both of these massacres, and then what needs to be done in the future to stop these from happening. Not so much the gun one, but more so the terrorist attack, because of how different it is from what we're used to seeing, and how we can prevent it from happening in the future. All that and more of that coming up tomorrow. So check us out on YouTube. The link for that will be in the description of this on SoundCloud, so you guys can watch us live again tomorrow, same time tomorrow. And be sure to check this video out on YouTube so you can see everything that we saw today. And also, be sure to check out our sponsors so you can help us out as well as helping them out and helping yourself out, of course. So we'll be back here again tomorrow, same time, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Today, general elections here in New York, as well as I'm sure around the country, so be sure to go out and vote. Local elections are very important. Everything starts local and works its way up. So you want to make sure you focus on your local government that's going to control you locally, and then, obviously you work your way up. So it's important to focus on your local, because that's the stuff that really is going to affect you the most, I would say, is the local government. So be sure to make sure you go out and vote today. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for those who watched with us live. Thank you for those who are going to watch later. And I will see you guys tomorrow, same time.